We're all set to go then for evening practice here at the Le Mans 24-hour race. Free practice 2 to decide the running order then. And this first night session is very critical. Let's hand over to Radio Le Mans for all the latest news as we get ready for the green light and 2 hours of practice. Let's hand it over to them now.
Get us underway in this most spectacular of sessions, and it's a very expensive traffic jam on the exit. Looks like the Alpines have worked their way at the front. There's a BMW right there. That's the art car that is sitting ready to go. And if I find a clock somewhere, we have just 28 seconds to go. If you're watching on Studio Vision, hello everybody, that's Paul, I'm John. And if you
15 seconds to the start of the session.
If you want to key in with anything, any pictures you might be, remember we're radio, we're not doing telly, but if you want to key in, that's what the Omologato timer is for. Omologato racing time. Let's get the green flag.
The exit is now open. This is the Le Mans 24-hour free practice 2 session.
And we'll head down for a CrowdStrike pit report with Diana Binks, who's with Rob Leupen at Toyota Gazoo Racing.
So I'm with Rob down here in the pit lane. Rob, obviously we have to ask you first of all, as the session night starts, what happened with the number 7 car earlier? We saw on screen you during the closing moments of qualifying.
Yeah, it was Kamui was pushing. He had to abort already a few fast laps in the last sector, and he was trying to give it an ultimate go, and he lost the car, unfortunate, and came into the gravel, caused a red flag. And yeah, the stewards took a quite harsh decision in deleting all the lap time, so he's now, I think, number 61 on the timing list.
Disappointing for you as a team. Do you think that was a fair process to happen?
Well, it's disappointing, but yeah, let's say fair. I think last year something happened similar in Hyperpole, and it was only the deletion of the fastest lap. So I don't know. It gives a bit of a mixed feeling.
There's obviously work for you to do with both cars. The number 8 car as well sort of got dislodged in that session. What's the plan for now, and how do you overcome that?
Oh, focus on the race setup. I think a lot of things to do. Get acquainted with driving in the dark and with the sun coming down. So I think still a lot of work to do. Yeah, for tomorrow we skipped the Hyperpole session, unfortunate, and focus on the 2 free practices we still have ahead of us, and then go for a pretty tough race. But we're not unhappy with the car performance.
Was there any damage to the number 7?
Well, not real damage, but we have to fix it and to get the gravel out of the car and see if everything is okay. So I expect that they will go on track in a few minutes.
Thank you, appreciate your time.
Very much.
Diana Binks down there with that CrowdStrike pit report. Let's say good evening to Nick Damon, who joins us in the Ford Performance Studio for the first time, because you've been out in the pit lane.
I have.
Did you enjoy it?
Fabulous. No, it's an amazing pit lane, because obviously when I started, this is my 18th race, believe it or not, 16 here and 2 during COVID. You only had like one key point initially, which was Audi. Then we got a second key point, which was Peugeot. And then for 1 year we had 4 key points when Nissan turned up. But with this absolute plethora of hypercars, it's about 11 different places in the pit lane where there's a really interesting and important front-running car for. It's all like where you're going to look. And then, of course, you add the fact you've got the P2s doing their P2 thing and all the new GT3s. And it's, you know how normally it was like you're only really interested in like 7 or 8 of the garages? I think probably about 58 of the 62 are interesting.
62 out of the 62 will be interesting to people who are there. Don't forget, you can follow along with timing and scoring if you go to live.wec. You'll find the timing pages from Al Kamel. They are in front of the pier wall, and normally they have a race control screen as well, but I'm not sure where that is in action. Is that still there?
Yes, that's still there.
Yeah, good. I wasn't sure about that because of it being Le Mans rather than a standard race. All right, what has to be done tonight, Paul? We were talking about 5 laps for each of the drivers.
Yes, 5 laps for each driver, one of which has to be across the start-finish line. In some ways, that's almost more difficult to do just one than it is to do 3 across the start-finish line. But, yeah, the requirement is to do 5 laps, but that could be an out lap, 3 flying laps and an in lap, or you could come in and out at the beginning and the end of different laps. But that's the driver qualification process. I think probably more importantly is to understand what the wear factors are in tyres, brakes, engine management. If you can maybe do something in the cool of the night to not use quite as much energy and yet still go fast, then that would be a good thing to be able to do. So also, of course, keep making sure the lights are pointing in the right direction. Standing on the spectator enclosure, I did notice one of the Alpines was pointing completely in the wrong direction. It was, rather than pointing at the track, it was pointing up at, not quite the sky, but certainly into the grandstands. So they'll have to sort out their lights. And of course, because of the rapidity with which nose sections get changed, quite often you need to configure the lights in each of the 2 or 3 different nose sections that you might have. Very often we'll see them putting on a different nose for the night time. That may have a little bit less cooling going to the brakes and things to keep the temperatures up at night. So there's an awful lot of work to get through from the mechanical point of view, from the engineering side, as well as having to make sure that your drivers get qualified by doing their 5 laps each.
It's Paul Trustwell alongside Nick Damon and me, John Hindhaugh, for the evening session from the Ford Performance Studios here at the end of the Bugatti circuit. Radio Le Mans, if you want to get in touch and join the conversation on Twitter or X, call it what you will. It is hashtag RLM_24H at RSL_studio, please, if you would like to get in touch with us. And don't forget, at the weekends, the whole race will be live on Saturday and Sunday on Sirius 136 XM 202 if you are in the US of A. Porsche. That's the noise that you can hear behind. In fact, that's Kevin Estra, who is heading through Indianapolis and into Arno. I shall come back to that thought in a second, because we can check in with Diana down in the pit lane for CrowdStrike Pit Report with Ben Barker, who was absolutely awesome in the qualifying session. So confident, put the car away, Di, after I think it was only 4 laps and it was back in the pits.
It was, and I'm alongside Ben now, and we were sort of talking about you obviously during that qualifying session. I mean, you didn't do much time out on track. Was it 4 laps that you put in before you banked that time?
Yeah, it was. It was 2 flyers, so it's kind of always been my strategy here, is to go out early and bank a lap, because you know all the categories are out, all the cars are out, so there's bound to be yellows, there's bound to be red flags, and the earlier you can do it, I think the better. So that's what we did, and it worked out, you know, and the car, I have to say, felt great, you know, felt really good, and we've all worked really hard over the last couple of months, really, with previous races, but also some test days to really try and dial this Mustang in. So, and you know, we're definitely making progress every time we go out, and that's a really positive start.
I mean, you're no stranger to fast times, were you? Are you? You were quicker and quick in kata.
What's that? Sorry,
You're no stranger to fast times, it appears.
No, I was a bit surprised, but yeah, it was it just felt mega, and it's just nice to do it early, take the pressure away, pocket a lap early on, and it's a nice position to be in. We'll sleep well, and we can refocus for tomorrow.
How much confidence does it give you when you have a car underneath you that you know you're going to get the performance from?
Oh, a lot, for sure. You know, I think this track and this whole event is about feeling comfortable, feeling relaxed, being able to drive the car with ease. You know, there's no point having a fast car that's on the edge. You want maybe a car that's maybe a tiny bit slower but is comfortable, that you can, you know, limit mistakes. So, and I think that's what we've got so far, and still a way to go until the race, but it's a really good start.
Yeah, you've got Hyperpole tomorrow, so you've got to do it all again. What's the plan?
Yeah, well, that's Ryan's job. So I'm passing the baton over to Ryan. So it's the bronze drivers who will be doing that. You know, and Ryan's been driving mega. You know, he's really relaxed. He's in a good headspace. He's been turning some really good lap times as well. So I think that's going to be really exciting to watch that.
Ben, thank you so much. We'll catch up with you over the weekend, I'm sure.
Thanks a lot.
So we are all set then as the JB team back with you for this one. And hello everyone. So we were just a little bit delayed because we've been watching the UK Prime Ministerial debate between Rishi Sunak and Sir Keir Starmer as it's taking place tonight in our hometown. So we were just watching that. So sorry about that, everybody, for being slightly late to the party. Still, only 10 minutes. Tom Dunn is going to be with me shortly up here in the comms box as we head into the night. Sunset is official. The last light here at France is going to be in around about 5 minutes' time, and then it's the crucial night practice. Of course, a Ferrari number 83 out there at the moment as well, with Robert Kubica at the wheel. Ferrari AF Corsa 51 with Antonio Giovinazzi. He's in second place. Sebastian Buemi in the number 8 Toyota Gazoo Racing is in third at the moment, the Toyota GR010 Hybrid. But breaking news, if they haven't said it already, and you don't know, in qualifying, we did have a red flag in the last 2 minutes caused by the number 7 Toyota driven at the time by Kamui Kobayashi. Now, that red flag interfered with the number 8 Toyota being driven at the time by Brendan Hartley in setting a lap time. Hartley qualified down in 12th position, but P4 was the number 7 Toyota. But because he brought out the red flag, he has now lost his fastest times from the session. So neither of the two Toyota Gazoo Racing, Car 7 or Car 8, have progressed through to the next part of the session. That is huge news going through. For the first time in the hyper-regulation era, Toyota are not automatically through. And they are going to have to start this race outside the top 8. So it's wide open tomorrow in Hyperpole for anybody to take pole. Tips go to Alpine, definitely go as well heavy now on Ferrari and Porsche. But BMW in the 20 car looks strong as well, and the 12 car also looks strong with the Hertha Team Jolter Will Stevens. So it's anybody's guess that we could keep coming through as well. Going on later. So, total of 2 hours in this session. We've got 1 hour and 48 minutes to go overall. As Tom Dunn has just joined the box, he's just getting set up, and then we'll join him. As hopefully... Yeah, they still haven't fixed the world feed issue from Eurosport. Thankfully, it won't be like that on Saturday or Sunday, though, which isn't too bad news. But it's one of those things where you just go, and sort of accept that it's coming our way during the broadcast as well. It's not too much of a annoyance in the background, but I welcome in Tom Dillon to the box. Hi, Tom. How, first of all, hope your head's better. And, and United Autosport stopping.
Said it, I pressed it and it turned red.
Copy, so press again. It has to be green. My bad. We thought there was nowhere not on. So green is good. They have to be green. Thank you.
So the 95 United Autosport team making a couple of mistakes there in the GT3 categories. Yes, hi Tom, hope your head's okay and welcome to the comms box.
Well, what I do know is in a racing car, anything that's on green is better than anything that's red.
Tom, can you hear me? Hello?
I can only imagine he's managed to turn the...
well, that works. I think I've frozen somewhere along the line, which is great news. Hello, Tom. Hello, can you hear me? I can. There might be some issues with lag.
I can hear you, yes. Can you hear me?
Yeah, there's a lot of lag. Right, we'll get this sorted and hand over to the world feed.
Even if we don't instantly know what it is, and you can tell that from the lack of pace on the tin lap.
Yeah, and yeah, it's a bit concerning because when he's sort of driving around now on all of the marbles and picking up more dirt and making whatever problem he has got a lot worse. So let's hope that comes in and it's a reset, master reset. Always is the first thing you'd try and do. So we just see it. Is that the sister car backing into the garage? I think it must be, the 59.
Right, Hamaguchi has got to the pit lane. Yeah, you got both of the cars in. Let's go back on board. Let's listen.
Gear shift issue.
There you go, gear shift issue. Gear shift issue then for Hiroshi Hamaguchi. Porsche getting that, sorry,
Right, chat again. Hi, Tom, can you hear me?
These Alpines all of a sudden are looking very racy, aren't they?
Yeah, again, 2 purple sectors, so Habsburg.
Okay, Tom, can you hear me?
So far, they've had their issues. Habsburg,
No, we've got an issue. Okay.
FP1, he sat at the side of the track and just about managed to get his car home after an issue. So he's finally getting up to speed. He's getting some laps in. He's putting some competitive laps in. 4th quickest now.
Yeah, and the Habsburg Chatin Milesi car was 4th in qualifying, so it's had good pace pretty much all day. Both the United Autosports LM GT3 McLarens now in. Hamaguchi with this gear shift problem. So it's been a busy first 15 minutes, and the United Autosports team now has to go to work and get this sorted out as quickly as possible, because the last thing they want to be doing is hemorrhaging track time.
Yeah, absolutely, and you know it's very rare to have an actual gearbox problem, but it can at times have, you know, a lot of software on these cars, a lot of wires, a lot of heat, and the two things don't always mix. So let's hope that's a quick fix, and they can get it, whatever the problem may be, get it back out there quite quickly.
Looks like a driver change would be expected anyway to put into that car Nicolas Pinot.
Yeah, talking to the guys down at United earlier, they were quite happy with where they were. Quite interesting that none of the drivers have actually been here and done it before, so a little bit of a baptism of fire for all concerned, but they seem to be enjoying it and very hopeful for the race.
Okay, we try that again. Hello, Tom. Can you hear me? You are muted on Discord at the moment. Can you hear me?
Hello, Josh. I can hear you, and I can hear you okay now.
Hey.
Is that all better?
Yes.
There we go.
Not got a clue what's
See,
going on.
It was quite weird because I've had internet issues the last sort of 48 hours. So I was 50-50. I was like, is this my end or is it Josh's end?
I don't know.
I wasn't quite sure, and I think it was your end.
Think
but
so. Yeah.
We'll never know.
Well, the Wi-Fi, it won't even open on the iPad at the moment to get the secondary discovery on as well. So that's going to be fun. Do I need to look for a new lead, though, for Radio Le Mans? Yes. Because it seems like the laptop does not like having things open anymore. So much for MacBook, honestly. It's dying a death, this thing, but it's dying a slow death. Like, it was shot a long time ago, it just won't die to come through, which I'm glad about because I need it and I can't afford $1.50 to get a new one. I don't even have $1.50. I wish I had $1.50. Let me tell you, the first thing I'll be doing will be buying new equipment. Hello, radio.
And Alex, it will be a hot stop, so get out of the car as quick as possible. But remember, keep your seatbelts tightened.
Yellow flag. Yellow. Copy that. Yeah, so Pelot's going to do a hot pit stop with another driver. Yellow flag at Marshall Point 10 and 11 on the circuit. So that's coming down the Mulsanne straight into, I believe, the chicane at Daytona. So the first half of this track. We haven't got any cameras down there, though, thanks to the fact that it is still midweek. Double yellow removed. We're back to green flag running. So then, Tom, it's the best part of Le Mans, the night shift. It's always fun when the sun sets and we go racing. It is the original night race, and I know as an endurance fan, it's one of your favourites as well. Indeed, you'll be on as well, we're during the witching hour, I think you said you were going to be. Oh.
Yeah, it's... Oh dear, that was the one of the LMP2 cars. I can't quite identify which one it is from here. The number plate is
47.
Sorry, 47. I thought so. Yeah. So looking down my timing screen here to try and figure out which car that is. Number 47. I'm going to give up. It's Core Racing. There we go. So they had a little off down at the Ford chicanes there. Yeah, this is literally like my Christmas. I have to be honest with you, Josh. I've been excited for this all week. I won't unfortunately get to watch the race start come Saturday, but I will be all over it heading into Sunday. So I'll get to watch at least, what is it, 16 hours of this race. So I don't think that's too much of a problem.
Then it goes burn, and the clutch doesn't cut, and the gear sets in neutral, And from there, I couldn't even go up. So I stopped the car. I cut the clutch by first. Then I put it back to second. And
apparently that's all we're going to hear there from the 95 squad.
Technical terms there. The car goes bang.
Yeah, not bad there
Big,
for Hiroshi.
One thing I wanted to speak about, Josh, a little bit. It's the big one. Toyota, out of hyperpole. That's big.
I mean, I cannot believe it personally, because especially the fact it was their own demise. Kobayashi stops Hartley going through by crashing, loses his own lap time. So they've shot themselves massive in the foot. Just means we're going to have a great race on Sunday and Saturday, Sunday, really. There goes the bloody break. But it's just going to be a better race, in my opinion, because you've got the experienced hypercars starting outside the top 8, and then you've got all the new guys jumping in forward.
Yeah, dead last. And then, of course, the number 8 car didn't get in as well, partly because of Kobayashi's off in the later stage of that qualifying session. That it does feel like a shot in the foot for Toyota, and we expected them to dominate last year. I expected them not to dominate this year, but certainly to be. I thought it was between them, Ferrari and Porsche, really, for pole position heading into Hyperpole tomorrow. But of course, they just got a little bit unlucky. I think it will have been between those three for Hyperpole tomorrow. But obviously, the lap just didn't formulate for Kobayashi, and the lap didn't formulate either for Brendan Hartley, which was so crucial. But I'm happy for Callum Ilott because he's had a really good run this weekend so far. Jensen Button in the number 12 car at the moment. Yeah, Ilott looking very quick.
Yeah, Ilott, I think, as well. Carry on from the doing the 2 of the 3 Triple Crown. He did the AMG 500 for McLaren. Now he's come over here and doing the normal race run at the moment as well. Oh, well, we're in normal commentators chat there as well, coming into it. I just saw that little Owl replied as well. Owl, if you're watching, you literally reply to everything as well. You don't need to reply to everything coming into it. LMP2 currently being led by the number 22 United Autosports as well, with BJ Garg at the wheel. Now, I do want to get into one thing that Omi pointed out. I don't know if you know, Tom, but Erwin Bastard as well, which I have done the pronunciation correct, because even though it is spelt B-A-S-T-R-D-A-D-R-D, you know, I can't even spell. But even though it's spelt how it sounds, the French pronunciation puts 2 S's instead of the 1. So it's Erwin Bastard, which I just find hilarious to try and say on a YouTube commentary at 2 a.m. in the morning.
Yeah, I haven't come across that name this weekend, but certainly an interesting one, isn't it? I was doing a bit of reading about Ferdy Hasberg earlier on, because I heard the name Hasberg, and I know he's been around for a while. I knew he was sort of royalty, but when I was thinking, I was like, Hasberg, is he one of those Hasbergs? And turns out, I'm sure I've heard it before, but it turns out yes, he is. He's literally Austrian royalty.
We saw Hasberg earlier on stop in practice 1. The exit of the pit lane having a few issues. We've got a yellow at Marshall Point 20. It has been withdrawn as Eurosport do one of their breaks every 5 minutes, which is going to be entertaining, because we will also have the Discovery tab open when it eventually loads, because it's just not wanting to do a thing. Also going to have to get another piece of paper. Here we go, finally. Back with some TV pictures on board with the 93 Peugeot with Jean-Eric Verne. I'm just waiting for Eurosport to come on, really, as well. That's on Saturday. Alex Jakes, Alex Brundle, Ben Constant-Juris is going to be on there as well. So a lot of good people coming in. Rene Binder's in there too. Will Steeman's leaving the pit lane. I don't know whether to say it's one of my favourite times of the year. I love Le Mans. It is so good, but the amount of drain it puts on everybody, it's insane that we still do it. The 24-hour races.
I'll tell you what true drain is, Josh. I was commentating on a real-life karting 24 hours a couple of weeks ago.
How?
In Milton Keynes. That was drain. We didn't have... so actually, we have curfew rules, so there's a night curfew where commentary has to stop overnight. And so we were doing practice in the morning. So we were in at 7 o'clock in the morning, and then we ran practice through to the race all the way up until 10 o'clock at night. And I get back to the hotel and I lie down. And well, I don't lie down actually. I get back to the hotel and I thought, I need a pizza now. Or something. I didn't specify pizza. I need something. So I sort of just walked in a straight line to try and find the nearest open place I could at like 11 o'clock at night.
Pizza will be it.
And I managed to get a pizza for £5.50 or something like
Wow.
that. Somehow it didn't kill me as well, which was the positive.
A good pizza
but yeah,
for that much?
True drain is getting home Sunday afternoon. At the time, it was about 5 o'clock Sunday afternoon. I eventually got in. And I slept for 14 hours straight. It was fantastic sleep. But my point is, I don't think I realised until I've actually now been there and been at a 24-hour race. And I know it's only karting, but it's the same sort of concept.
Same principle.
I didn't realise how actually how just draining it is.
It's one of, if not the most grueling tests you can ever do. And the mechanics, of course, I think everyone forgets, oh yeah, everyone else, drivers get sleeps and then they do driving. I always think this is a test of the mechanics because they are up 24 hours straight, sometimes even longer than that because the mechanics set the cars up. Mechanics are for around about 42 hours in total. That is just insanity that they can keep going. It's all I always feel for the marshals. I mean, the mechanics.
And the marshals.
Marshals too, but they're on a shift change, aren't they, every 5 hours, so they're not too bad.
Yeah, newfound respect for marshals actually from that 24-hour.
Yeah.
Huge respect to be stood at a post at 3 in the morning.
I would do it. Just
but yeah, the marshals here are voluntary as well, aren't they? They don't even get paid.
No, yeah. French marshals here, they are all voluntary. Actually, I was speaking to some journalists from Le Mans who were talking to the marshals who were coming in. Oh, there's a small fire there at the rear of that McLaren. That's in the pit lane as well. That's the 95 squad as well. Can't quite see the board number from here on the TV angle that we've got, but it is a McLaren, I can tell you that much. Yeah, I was speaking to some of the journalists who were with the marshals coming in on the test day on Sunday. And they said that they camp here. They are here from test day. They're here from the Saturday all the way until the following Sunday. And by the time they leave here at 4, 5 o'clock, well, actually 6 o'clock on Sunday French time, they go back to the campsite, they sleep, and then they get up and pack up and they leave around about 10:30, 11 o'clock at night. All the marshals. So it's a really weird system they've got, but it's absolutely brilliant. I love what they do. And of course, the marshals here have to work in worse conditions than any other circuit in the calendar because it does get very cold at night in France here. And also, they've got no lighting. So they are in the pitch black in the middle of what is forest area in the middle of the night. And it's the weirdest experience.
Yeah, and no matter which way you look, you know, the only thing you really can see is these big blaring LED headlights from all of these race cars. I mean, how many have we got here today? We've got about 60, haven't we? 62. Yeah. So it's the full house, pretty much. And it's just big glaring LED headlights. You don't understand how much power those headlights actually have. I mean, you know, if you're in a road car and you're driving down imagine driving down a country lane at sort of 10 o'clock at night in the winter when it's pitch black. You know, you live in Grimsby, Josh. I'm sure you are aware.
There's a couple of areas just around where we live.
Yeah, I've grown up countryside area, so I know it as well. You drive down there and you've got your full beam on, and then someone would forget to turn their full beam off and drives the other way.
God, it blinds
you. You look at them and your eyes hurt, and you're like, oh my word, that's awful. Imagine that, but it's these big, powerful, 3 times power LED lights. It's unbelievable. the power that these race cars have got, especially their lights as well.
And as you can see on the driver tracker now, if you're watching us on YouTube and Twitch, or if you're not listening to us as well, you're not going to be hearing it, whether we're on USRN, WSL, IE Sports, or whatever takes us at the moment, because I know a lot of people do. I've lost track. If you're watching us on YouTube and Twitch, you can see the driver tracker. You can see that there are dots at every single part of the track. There is not one part of the track where there is not a car going around consistently at the moment, and that's what the marshals are going to have to put up with. Every 5 seconds, there's lights and there's noise, and it's a sensory overload as well. Let's hear from the 93
Jeff, we have the margin to change the front right, so we'll do.
That's the 93 with John McVern just getting out of the car doing a seat change, but yeah. It's on the bucket list. One of these years we must all go... Well, I don't know. Who could do it? I'd say somebody would have to stay behind and do the stream. That's always going to be something. And then whoever would stay behind would have to have guests on. But we should go to Le Mans and do trackside coverage. I know you went last year, didn't you, Tom? Or year before? Some year you went there, didn't you?
No, I've never been.
Who's been? Ed?
Last time.
Nick?
Yeah. I think someone was there last year. Yeah. I mean, last time I left the country was 2018, I think.
It is. 19.
That was for a week in France, but it wasn't.
Wasn't
racing related.
I had a week in Spain as well for the testing. Tell you what, best 4 days and then best 8 days in total ever, because so much more exploring. And I came back thinner. How did you do that? I was having Italian. I was having Spanish tapas. I was having pizzas. I was having burgers. But because you're walking 4 days around the track, and then you're walking a further. Well, you're travelling for 2 days, but then you're walking the other 2 days exploring Barcelona, Girona, all that lot. You lose weight. It's unbelievable. So yeah, I enjoyed that a lot. We should all try and get to Le Mans and do the coverage from trackside.
Absolutely, I'd love to go. I think the only thing is, I feel like if I went, it would be a little bit of a similar feeling to when I went to British GT at Donington, in that it was slightly underwhelming because, I've spent a lot of time building up, and obviously I've done my karting as well. So in my head, particularly at that time, you've got a bit of an ego on you. You're like, I'm quite good in a car. Well, I'd be alright. And you're watching all these people go around in Ginettas there and stuff, and you're thinking, they're my age. If I had the money, I'd walk on some of these kids. Whether that's delusion or not is a different story. But to go to Le Mans, it'd be like looking around thinking, this is literally like the dream. Like what I would give to be able to race this, or even what I would give to be able to commentate on this, to be able to cover it as a journalist. It's like the ultimate sort of. I'd prefer to work in Le Mans than Formula One, honestly.
If I got to do one event, I'd like to do this.
It would almost be like you're so close to everything you'd ever wanted, but you're just on that other side of the gate, and it's not quite exactly where you are.
What I would do is I'd do something different. I would A, never leave the commentary box, but B, I would never leave on air. So I'd take a camera with me, and I'd go on the night shift like we are now, and I'd do, all the carousel stuff, and go and have a look around and everything, and on the eye, and then I'll go and do the food and the parties and all that, and everything that happens on the evening of the race at Le Mans, and then go out into the middle of the woodlands on the track and take the camera there. We've got 24 hours, and it always feels like Eurosport and the World Feed just don't do anything with it. They never send people out trackside like they do on Sky F1 and everything like that. It's a 13-kilometre track, yes, but in this day and age, you can broadcast on your phone. So I never get why they never send anybody out there in order to actually grab the atmosphere. It's 24 hours long. We don't always need to watch the race.
I actually completely agree with you on that. Because if you think about the features they do have, I understand for regular WEC season races, it's a very skeleton crew, and for good reason. I mean, realistically, this isn't a moneymaker for them. But when it's Le Mans, it's such a big race.
Yeah,
I think you see sort of camped in weird pre-recorded features, but not actually a lot of anything that adds meaning to it. A lot. Whereas what I quite like about Radio Le Mans is there's a big focus on the race, of course. But they've also got quite a lot of pit reporters. Not necessarily to the point that they're going on the carousel. And I think, to be honest with you, I don't think I really want to watch someone going on the carousel, as an example. But yeah, I would quite like to see more stuff being done in the Eurosport camp.
Because we've got there's nothing that really attracts anybody. Like, if you're watching this coverage right now, you think, well, I'm not going to go there. Why would I go? It's racing around a small enclosure of a circuit, and the rest of it's street track. There's nothing for me to do. There's no grandstands, nothing. But you arrive in this sort of amphitheatre of the stadium sector on the actual circuit, and you see all the lights and gizmos. But what you don't realise is behind the main grandstand, there is a huge sporting presence that goes all the way from the last corner, all the way up until the end of La Chapelle. That's about 1.5 miles of entertainment, action arenas, everything. It is so busy, and just to get somebody down there during the race, it's not that hard. And let's talk to the people who come here. Let's find out their backstories. How long have you been coming here? Because we saw, Tom, don't we, on social media, people say, oh, this is my 30th Le Mans. I've done this for 30 years now and all this lot. And they're in their 50s and 60s. You've got to have the passion. You've got to keep it alive. And I think this year, we've got one of the best races lined up in decades. We have 23 hypercars. Biggest class ever in over 30 years in endurance racing, where we've got hypercars, which were basically LMP1s that have like prototypes. So the main class, for the first time in over 30 years, is full to the brim. We've got GT3s that have been redecorated, that everyone's there now and going like, yes, we're all now competing as a road car manufacturer. And then we've thrown in the LMP2s back into the mix. And it's like, there's so much energy around this race, and it just feels quite lackluster at the moment.
Yeah, LMP2's inclusion this year is funny to me, because it does seem a little bit forced. How many LMP2s have we got? From what I can tell, 15, maybe?
16 I've got on my notes.
16, yeah. So it feels a little bit forced, maybe. I think possibly they wanted to get the ELMS teams involved without, your ELMS and your IMSA teams as well involved. Yeah. Without just having a chunk of the grid completely missing. But yeah, it feels weird, because in past years, Le Mans has been very much around the World Endurance Championship, and it's been presented as very much around the World Endurance Championship. Whereas I don't think, with LMP2 being included, there's just that little bit of extra complexity to it now, and especially with the Pro-Am as well. There's no championship on the line here. You can't even look at it and say, oh, they've had a good run this season.
You can't. There's no backstory.
There's no form guides, there's nothing. So it feels weird that LMP2 has continued to be included. And I do unfortunately think it was a couple of years ago one of my favourite classes, but now Hypercar is as popular as it is. It's overtaken it completely.
Yeah.
I think Hypercar actually undermines LMGT3 a little bit as well. Because obviously a couple of years ago you'd have LMP1, or Hypercar indeed, and then you had...
Consider using more curb at 2-3. Consider using more curb at turn 2-3. That's where we see biggest loss to Seb in sector 1.
Right. That's the Ford chicane. Go on, Tom.
But you also don't want... I lost my marker. Yeah. Oh yeah, sorry. So we obviously had LMP1 or Hypercar. We had limited manufacturers. Then you had your GT3 or GTE, then it was, World Championship. And you had Ferrari, Aston Martin fighting it out. And that was quite good. But now we've got Hypercar. That's undermined that a little bit, because all of those teams have now moved up in Hypercar. Aston Martin coming back next year, and things like that. So now actually LMGT3, for my liking, is just sort of bringing GT3 back onto the map in a way, in the World Endurance Championship, rather than just leaving it to Spa, leaving it to Nürburgring and things like that.
Yeah, there's no actual manufacturers left now in the GT3 category, whereas, as you say, in days gone by, we had the Ferrari team in there, we had Aston Martin, we had Cadillac, and now they've all made their way up to hypercars, as we see in the last couple of years as well. So the GT3s have sort of lost their sting a little bit. Ford came back and won Le Mans with their Ford GT40. So if Ford came back now, which I think they are planning to do main time, aren't they, with the Hypercar Foundation, that's going to be a bit of a it's all gone a bit too forward now, hasn't it? It's like Hypercar's always a funny one with me because you've come into this year and I think 23 cars, fantastic. But you've got Toyota, you've got Ferrari, you've got Porsche, you've got Alpine. Jolter are now a factory team as well, but they're running with the Porsche 963. You've got Cadillac, you've got Proton in there, again running with the Porsche, but a factory team. They're like the easiest way to explain it if you're new to endurance. It's a bit like what we have in MotoGP, where we have the factory Ducati team, but then that same bike is lent out to Prima Pramac with Jorge Martin and over as well at Real 46. You know, they all get the same Ducati bikes and Gresini. So they've all got the same car, but they're not part of the factory, but they are part of the factory. It's confusing to explain it all. But I don't know, it strikes me as wrong. And then you've got the actual Porsches, but they're run with Penske's coming back in. I don't think Porsche's been hyped up a lot as well either in the last couple. And I don't know, it just all feels a bit muddled. And I think the biggest one I feel sorry for is Peugeot, who were the third team to commit to Hypercar. And they've been here trying to develop for ages. And now everyone else has just been allowed in. And they've got no development. They've lost all that succession they got from the FIA because everyone else has come in. So now it's a level playing field. So Peugeot put the development in. And they've lost it out because the FIA opened it up and said, come back in. And they're now being beaten by BMW.
Yeah, well, I think there's a couple of things to unpack here. I'm going to politely disagree with you, Josh.
That's good.
Nice dialogue at this time of the night over there. I think, look at... So to start with Porsche and Penske and obviously Hertz Team Jota, it's quite a simple way to look at it. Think about Subaru and ProDrive.
Yeah.
ProDrive in the rally days, as far as I understand it, were absolutely... they were Subaru. It was Subaru went to ProDrive and said, you're in charge of the Subaru team. And it would be a little bit like AF Corse and Ferrari. AF Corse is effectively a wing of Ferrari. And Ferrari went to AF Corse and said, you run the Ferraris in the GT World Championship. So for Penske, they're not inside of the FIA Hyper World Cup for teams. So in Hypercar, you've got two championships. I'm not including the Drivers' Championship. That's obviously a Drivers' Championship. In terms of manufacturers and teams, you've got two championships. You've got the World Manufacturer Championship, which is a World Championship. It's an FIA World Championship, which is on the same level as Formula 1 in terms of it has that World Championship status, which is also only held by things like formerly World Touring Cars and things like that, and World Rally and stuff. So in terms of the pinnacle of endurance racing, the FIA Hypercar World Championship, that is there. Then you have the Hypercar World Cup. Now, Porsche, Penske, are contributing towards that Hypercar World Championship because they are the Penske team. Whereas Jota are a privateer team. They've gone and purchased a Porsche and they've decided that they're going to run it. We've got yellow flags, by the way.
Yeah.
I'm not sure where.
Marshall Point 20, it says on the timing 71 page. Now that Marshall Point 26 now. So that is down, I believe, at the bottom of Arnage. Not seeing anything down there.
Keep an eye on that, obviously having to rely a little bit on onboard cameras to catch what's going on down there.
Yeah, driver trackers use dots these days as well, which is not that helpful.
So, of course, Porsche, of course, Jota are just customers of Porsche, pretty much, in the same way. However, of course, Iron Lynx, for example, are running the Lamborghini factory team. So, two slightly different things, and I can see how that's confusing to an everyday viewer. But that's the sort of nature of the situation. I think the thing about Peugeot, though, to go onto their point, I don't necessarily see Peugeot as anything wrong with the FIA. I see it as something wrong with their philosophy. They came into Hypercar, for those who don't know, with a fundamentally flawed philosophy, which was we're not going to have a rear wing, we're going to solely rely on ground effect. Unfortunately, they had a problem with the ground effect where they were running over bumps, and they couldn't produce consistent downforce. They did lead this race, of course, at some point last year in the morning. They were slightly fortunate to do so, but they were there and thereabouts, and they were relatively competitive, but they were ultimately the slowest of the hypercars. And the problem they had, they couldn't generate consistent downforce because of the fact they were using ground effects as the car was riding over curbs, as the suspension was being weird. That downforce was just coming and going a little bit, and it was making it quite unpredictable to drive from what I'm aware. So they've gone away and they've decided, actually, we'll put a wing on the car, we'll have a little bit more of a conservative concept, and that's the way we're going to address things. And it seems to be that's helped Peugeot. They're now a little bit more competitive here, though of course this is very early in that new sort of car concept. When it comes to teams like BMW coming in, we forget that, yes, they're relatively new to WEC, but that is a car that has been developed through IMSA. It's the same thing with Cadillac. It would be the same thing with someone like Acura if they were to make the move over to Europe, but they seem pretty happy to stay in IMSA for the time being. That BMW is an LMDH. It's slight, and I know the Porsche, I believe, also is an LMDH. Slightly different regulation set. All racing under the hypercars, but it's a much easier car to develop because it's got components that you purchase. It's got the set battery and things like that. So it's a slightly easier car to develop, which is why BMW more competitive than Peugeot, because Peugeot are developing their car from the ground up. BMW having to use some of those parts that just mean that car's a little bit easier to develop in over space. And of course, they have got balance of performance. And if I'm not mistaken, they will be given more balance of performance as we go on throughout the weekend.
Yeah.
So it should just bring that field a little bit closer.
Yeah, so that balance is going to be coming back in. If you just take a look quickly to your driver tracker and your time is 71, and take a look that Erwin Bastard has now just come into the pit lane at 21:45:30, you'd see why we're having so much fun with that name throughout the weekend as well. So we've got Antonio Foucault in here as well. So how many times are we going to... Honestly, with that, it's going to be such a 2 a.m. But yeah, BMW, of course, coming in, as you say, pretty much with a stock car. It's the BMW M Hybrid V8 that they've got in, the same as, well, two of them actually. But Peugeot running 16th at the moment with Michael Jensen in the 93. Can't see where the 94's ended up on my time. There it is, the 14th overall with Stoffel van Dorn as well coming out of the pit lane. But I've just got a worry that we're going to have... And it's the unpredictable race that scares me, but I'm worried that the drivers are going to go, right, the manufacturers are going to go, right, we worked so hard to come here and work. We worked so hard because we believed in the regulations, but there's just nothing left for us anymore to gain here. We're off, kind of thing, before the development's been done. Yellow flag Marshall point 2. Now, that is coming out of the pit lane. So I don't know what's happened. That is turn 1, effectively. That's right out the pit lane. So if we go green now, coming out the pit lane there was Marco Sorensen. So I wonder if he might have just stopped and then got going again. As Erwin Bastard has changed to Marco Sorensen himself. So that's what was there. Okay. But yeah. Do you reckon that we will actually just keep manufacturers interested in WEC? Because it took us, 12 years to get the proper manufacturers back, because we're under a time when the hypercar rules and even the LMP1 died a death. Let's not deny that anymore. It used to be the Titan with Toyota, Audi, Porsche all in there as well, but it died. And hypercar came in and it was a very slow start. Now the FIA sort of intervened and said, "Come on, we'll make you in. We'll have it happen." But all this effort put in, is it sustainable?
It's sustainable to a point, is my belief. Yeah. Every single class of car eventually died a death. Group C died a death.
That died, yeah.
And part of that is you've got a problem. See, the regulations are the problem. You've got engineers who are going to constantly try and innovate on that problem, and it's going to become a little bit more optimized. And the barrier for entry, as low as we can keep it with balance performance and things like that, the barrier to entry is eventually going to become too high. It's a problem that Formula 1 faces. This is why you see rule changes having to happen in Formula 1 every 4 or 5 years or so, because top engineers on a problem. Eventually, if someone gets the jump, first of all, it's very difficult to bring that down. We haven't necessarily seen that in WEC, actually. Toyota very much got the jump, and Ferrari are right on them after just a couple of years of development. But I think the issue you've got with LMP1 was that it became far too expensive. I don't see hypercar becoming too expensive. It's quite an economical class, and especially with the privateers, we could start to see that become a little bit more populated, actually. But in terms of smaller manufacturers, you look at someone like Glickenhaus, who haven't been bullied out of it at all. I say haven't been bullied out. I'm sure Jim Glickenhaus would disagree with me on that. They've had some issues with the FIA, of course. And not the FIA, in fact, they've had some issues with IMSA being allowed in.
Yeah.
Which has actually killed off that project a little bit. I got slightly confused there. They had an issue with IMSA. But they struggled to compete with these new bigger manufacturers. And actually, you look at a team like Glickenhaus, and actually you say, you should be a privateer. You should be buying a car off someone, which isn't what Glickenhaus want to do, and that's fair enough. But they're a separate matter. But you look at a team like Asata Freschini here. They've got their own car. And actually, they're going to really struggle as well. And they are, shockingly, towards the sort of back of the...
well, they're 22nd, aren't they? Yeah.
But I don't think that necessarily is going to say it's a death of the class. I think this class can easily go on for 10, 15 years and be very successful. However, every single class eventually is going to die a death, and we'll wait to see how long that happens for hypercar. But right now, I saw a tweet on this earlier, actually, and it said, you know what, right now, we are in a golden age.
Yeah.
You know, when we look back in the same way that we look back on 2016, or we look back on the 90s, and we say this was peak. This is the peak of the hypercar class. I say the peak, it's still on the come up.
Yeah, this is year
Martin
one.
Back next year. The more teams are coming into it. But actually, this is absolutely the years we're going to look back on fondly. So we should just enjoy it. Enjoy it while it lasts.
Yeah, we're sort of using this Le Mans as a test bed as well to see if we cover more WEC races in terms of whether some will be ours and some will be other radios as well coming in and doing the sessions, because there's only a couple of races on the calendar, but they are long. And sometimes they directly clash with other series we're coming. But if we can do it, we will, because there is a strong WEC base, fan base, and endurance base. We did earlier on in the year the 24 Hours of Daytona as the other one, because you've got to do the two big... We don't do every series, but you've got to do the two big ones. So ideally Sebring would have been on the list as well, but we got testing at the same time as Sebring, so we didn't have all hands on deck for that, because for Formula 1, it's always the way.
Yeah, exactly. And I think one thing as well, I've noticed with the WEC this year, I haven't really been able to watch it that much. I haven't been able to watch the WEC race. I've been keeping up with it as much as I could. I've been at work for all of the races, so there's been no way for me to watch it. But I've heard it's been a fantastic season so far.
I caught some of Spa, and I really felt for the Iron Dames as well, who were like within a few laps of winning, and then they just lost it on the last couple. So I felt sorry for them. And coming in here, they didn't qualify for the Hyperpole either. They start, I think, 60th overall in the running order, which is not great. But there'll be a fight back. It's a long race, this one, as they come in. As we say, they say, it used to be.
Cliche.
What do you say?
I say cliche. We normally in ERC we normally have a little bit of a bingo card for how long it takes someone to say that.
Have you got this one on the list as well? Because we used to say it's an entire Formula 1 season in one day. And then they went to 24 races and we went, bugger. Can't say that anymore because it's 48 hours now for the Formula 1 season. On average, it's 48 hours because it's 2 hours a race. It's quite funny, actually. Because we used to be, back in the days of 16, you could say, it's an F1 season in a day.
Yeah, obviously, especially when you consider free practice, the amount of running. There was a discussion, actually, I don't think you might have heard this on the television broadcast, about teams with their race engines in at this stage. Now, I always thought, this is how it was traditionally anyway. Do qualifying, put your race engine in, and then from that point, and obviously that would develop into Hyperpole race engine from that point. Apparently, the majority of the teams, especially in LMGT3, have got their race engines in.
Already in practice 2?
That's what I was hearing.
That's a bit risky. I mean, how confident are they? Because that's the one thing. I wouldn't have put the race engine in until... Well, you've got to have it in for hyperpole. If you get to hyperpole, you've got to have your racing engine. That's in the rules. But you can, I think, change, especially when at Le Mans, you can change it back because you've got practice 4 after that. So you have to have it in for practice 3 and hyperpole, but you can change it for practice 4 if you wish, because it's 2 hours later. But I see your point. Maybe that's why.
Can't use the entry curb into the final chicane. Can't be.
Maybe it's the time, because we used to start on a Tuesday, didn't we, with practice. Now we start on a Wednesday and everything's a bit more condensed. And maybe it's the condensed format that they've just gone, we'll put it in now.
And I suppose as well, what are you doing with that? Let's say 3 hours, let's say 30 hours of running.
Yeah.
Maybe a little bit more. Most of the cars can do that nowadays. And you're not going to be running it full pelt at this point. And drivers are avoiding curbs. They're doing things like that just to make sure that the engines last. And they are very reliable. As a general rule, you'll have electrical things that go wrong. But in terms of the engine, it's not like the old days where you'll have a piston go at 3 in the morning just because you've driven for 12 hours. That doesn't tend to happen anymore. The engines are very, very reliable. And I think as well, especially when you look at something like a hybrid, it can be quite tricky, from what I can tell, to dial it in.
Yeah.
So if you're putting it in a later session, you're then suddenly catching up a little bit because you're having to dial in that engine again, make sure your settings are correct, because engines are made differently. That's just the nature of it. One engine will be faster than another. They can come off the same production line, but one engine will be faster than another, and you have to. I would suspect you have to tweak each engine slightly differently.
Yeah, and there's a balance, isn't there? And they can have the same pace here and there. So
yeah, absolutely. So get it in early, get yourself dialed in, relax.
And I suppose it's driver comfort as well, isn't it? They don't want to be having the stress of, right, you've got to do the engine reclimatization again. You've got to do this, you've got to do that. You want to get in there, do your laps, and get your eye into the circuit so you're not distracted. And I think it makes sense. I mean, it's a 2-hour session. It used to be, back in our day, practice 1 would start at 12 o'clock. You'd have 2 hours, and then you'd have 2 hours off. Then you'd have free practice 2, another 2 hours. Then you'd have it off. Then you'd have a 3-hour qualifying session that would take you until the night. So it'd go from, 8 till midnight. Is that for us? That's for us. 9 till midnight it'll go to. And then at midnight, checker flag will go off, the cannon, and then you've got, okay, who's on pole? There you go, done. Come back the next day, do another practice session. One in the afternoon, one in the evening again. That's it, that's all you're running. So they've condensed that to include the new hyperpole so that... but you lose that moment, I always find, Tom, of, it's midnight, who's on pole? That's the one thing I don't like about hyperpole. I wish they would change hyperpole's rule so that it was right now instead of practice 2. That's what I'd wish. Just one small change so that we know who's on pole and get the headline.
Yeah, I would agree with you. However, you've got to think TV viewers as well.
Yeah.
And it gives a chance of qualifying in hyperpole to be in that 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock prime TV slot, which I think is very important for the series going forward, because realistically, is your average Joe going to stay up to 12 o'clock sees on pole?
No.
And obviously we will, because we're motorsport nerds, but I don't think the average person will look at that and do that. So I think it's better for the product.
But in that case, then why did we go 24-hour racing? Because the start time's already changed, isn't it? Because it used to start at 3, now it starts at 4. So we're already an hour later for World Endurance Championship, because the race starts at 4 now French time, not at 3.
I thought that it was always 4 o'clock local time.
It used to be 3.
Oh no, okay. So I've googled it. You are correct, technically. So the traditional race start time is indeed 4 o'clock local. It changed
for
from 2009 No, not for COVID. It changed from 2009 to 2019.
They've moved it back.
And now they've moved it back.
Oh.
However, this is the last year of 4 o'clock start time, apparently.
Oh.
As next year it will be 3 o'clock again.
Oh, so they're just moving it back to 3. Oh, for God's sake.
At the end of the day, I don't think it really matters, but
I mean, from a standpoint, I quite always liked it when, at least for my OCD brain, it was nice it went from 3 to 3, which in the UK was 2 to 2. Because here it's still going to go 3 to 3 here in the UK. That's fine, but we don't go right. A little fact here: everybody here changes their watch to French time. I know I do. I don't know if you. I know Megan does.
I don't.
You don't. Only way I can work with Le Mans. Otherwise, I get confused because I see messages. Because I get so confused at 2 a.m. in the morning, British time, when I look down at the monitor and go, "Why is that saying 3 a.m.? Why is that? What's going?" So to save that, all my watches, I've got an Apple Watch. I changed the time on that as well. They all change to say the French time, and I just work off that. And then at the end of it, I get an hour back. That's how I work for it. Otherwise, I get confused.
That's quite smart, because one of my biggest annoyances with Le Mans, particularly with the 3 o'clock finish time, is I get to the end of the day, and it's 3 o'clock, and the 3 hours after Le Mans, it's the most depressing evening ever.
It is.
Because you're knackered. The weekend's been. The good thing is I got a day off. Actually, the Monday afterwards, because my A levels are done. Oh no, I don't. Oh dear.
Oh, hello, Tom's
That's bad news, everyone. Oh no, I've got my final A level exam on Tuesday, so I don't even get. I mean, I get a day off, but I don't.
Oh dear.
Oh, that changes it a little bit.
Yeah. You
Oh no.
You can't do everything then, can you?
Oh no, I can. It's fine. Okay. I
You're
did my
still-
GCSEs after doing an all-nighter for Le Mans, and that was on the Monday morning, like 9 o'clock.
You're
so
still doing A level? I thought they would finish by now. It's mid-June, aren't you all? You are.
I did.
Go on.
So I did computer science. It's quite funny because I have written my two of my subjects are written. So I've got computer science and law. Sorry, history and law. So they're early. They like to get the written subjects out early.
Yeah.
And then I have computer science, and all your sort of sciencey subjects start a little bit later. So I'm at the end of my history, but actually my first paper for computer science was only on like Wednesday or whenever it was. So yeah, I've still got computer science. Then it's done. Then I can relax over summer.
I hate that. Also, I hate the fact that everyone cheats you off. As a kid, you think, oh, July, middle of the year, excellent. Now it's time for the summer break into August. No, that's month 8. Or summer, that's month 8. Mid of the year is 6. You take your break at 6. It's so backwards, honestly. I mean,
The biggest cheat in the entire world, actually, is particularly in the UK. At each stage of your academic life, you get this full sense of finality. I remember finishing my GCSEs, and it got to summer, and I was like, I can relax now. No more exams for at least a year. And anyway, A-levels are coming, but I was like, I can relax. I can have a year off. Not a year off, but like a year coasting through it, and I'll be absolutely fine. And then you get to college, and the first thing is, and literally September in college, everyone's still basically buzzing about the fact that GCSEs are over, and it's like, yeah, we've got entrance exams next week.
What?
just to assess where you are. Here's an entire chapter of a history book for you to read. Learn it, and yeah, there you go.
It's like
essay next week.
I hate that because it's like they could just talk to each other, and then you know where we are. It's like if you just look at the results.
And then for computer science, it's like, oh, and by the way, your 80,000 word coursework is going to be completed over this year. We should talk about the racing, because we've got a car going slowly. Felipe Drugovich for Wheeling Cadillac down the Mulsanne.
Oh, that's not. That's not going to be a nice position to be stuck at. So I'm trying to work out what part of the track he's at.
Oh, excuse me, it's not the Mulsanne, it's into the Porsche curves.
Yes,
I believe.
That's. I've got no clue. Tete Rouge, maybe? Is it the beginning of? Could it be?
No, it's into the Porsche curves.
Yeah, you're right. Here we go.
So here's the right hander. Then he goes up to the left hander.
He's on the radio.
Punch, has he?
let's come back under the full course yellow mode, the 80 kph full course yellow mode. There's no air left in the tire.
Right, so he has got a puncture, and they're taking it under themselves to go into the full course yellow, but I don't really like the idea of that. Look at that, already one of the GT3s nearly whacking to the back of him through the Porsche S's, because that S-curve, yeah, they've moved the barrier back, but it is still incredibly tight through there, and the barrier is not forgiving if you hit it.
I think the good thing is, obviously, that they've got the white flags here, so everyone knows that he's there. This is the only thing going on the track, really. But as he makes his way into the pit lane, should be okay here. Very sensible. I think the good thing as well, at the moment, just focusing on making sure that you don't damage the car, whatever you do.
Because that is destroying bodywork, destroying floors. It changes the game. It also removes the car from homologation. So you'd have to, if you're in it, you lose out. I don't think V-Line are in the top 8 for Hypercar, but it removes them from the competition where they've qualified and put them to the back of Hypercar in their grid. Because still don't know if it is true or not that we are splitting the classes again. I think we are, because
in Hypercar?
Yeah, in terms of when we go to the starting grid, in case one of the LMP2s don't qualify.
Good work.
Yeah, I don't think we're splitting the grid anymore.
I thought we were, because back in
I think we are.
a couple of
grid,
yeah, we should be, because a couple of years ago the problem was hypercars are basically LMP2s because they were modelled half on the DPI regulations, which themselves are model of the LMP2 regulations. So they were pretty close on pace in the early stage. I mean 2021.
It was embarrassing, really.
Now, it was awful. Now, they've slowed down the LMP2s a chunk, and the hypercars have got a lot faster. So, they're still about 10 seconds around here off of what LMP1 cars were, but we expected that much. But they're a lot faster than what LMP2s used to do. LMP2s, for the record, if I'm not mistaken, used to do... I'm trying to not get confused with what lap times we were doing in R-Factor 2, back when we all used to sweat the LMP2 cars. I believe around Le Mans, LMP2s used to do about 28-second lap times, if I'm not mistaken.
Somewhere around there, wasn't they? They weren't that far off. I mean, we had LMP2 leading the race overall a couple of years ago, and they finished second and third. So it was a...
I'm completely wrong.
3
minute 25.
Oh, wow. So they're quicker than
that was back
now.
when they were really quick.
Top time in Hypercar was 3:24. So the LMP2s are faster than the Hypercars.
Yeah, this was... Bear in mind, though, that they have been slowed down a lot since then.
Yeah.
It's different tyre compounds, it's different everything, so...
Yeah, we used to have Goodyear, now it's Michelin. And then we had Dunlop, now it's not Dunlop.
Interesting to see what the LMGT3s do, actually.
Yeah.
Do you know what times they were running this morning?
What time are they running now? 3:38? No, what time are they running now?
3:58, from what I can tell.
Yeah, 3:58.7. They were, I think, running 3:55s in the session this afternoon in qualifying.
So they're not a million miles off the
not.
GTE car they replaced.
And the GT3s are, even though they are a Le Mans category, they're the same as the GTs over in IMSA.
Are they... What's the difference between those and SRO GT3 cars? Because as far as I'm aware, they're still pretty much the same, aren't they?
They are pretty much... They are exactly the same, I think. I think that's the point, because the LM GT3s... Well, the GT3 used to have its own championship, didn't it? Hang on.
So the lights are 2. There's 3 including off, so there's off, main, and then the high beam.
Yeah, so we used to have the FIA GT3 championship, and that used to be the Group 1, which was Black Pan. So that all got moved over. So what Black Pan GT became the FIA World GT Challenge, and then that became GT3. And then GT3 got moved over end of last year to this year into Le Mans. But GT3 is still the GTD. No, hang on a minute. No, the GT3 category is over in IMSA, that run at Daytona. So the only difference here is WEC teams instead of IMSA teams. And even then, some of them just change over.
A lot of people doing GT World Challenge as well.
Yeah.
I think GT World Challenge is possibly what you're alluding to.
Yes, yeah. They're the same thing, just it's all changed up a bit now.
Yeah, that's what... It's not an FIA World Championship, but it is 24 Hours Spa, British GT, American GT, all of your GT3 championships, and your GT4s, of course, as well. But I don't think we'd ever see GT4s around here.
No, I think GT racing is one of the things the FIA have confused so many people about over the last couple of years. There are too many of them, and they're too random.
Of course, GT2s still exist.
Yeah,
and are raced.
Yeah.
Within the SRO. I think that the way I always explain it to people is like this. GT3 is your top class of GT racing. GT2 is something of a legacy class at the moment, in the sense that, yes, it exists, but it doesn't get major races around the world. It's very much just we still run it because it hasn't quite been phased out yet, and there's still some teams who want to run it, and some drivers who enjoy it. So we have a GT2 championship to just sort of say it still exists. But GT3 is absolutely the premier class. And then the junior class to GT3 is, of course, the GT4 class. And that, right now, those are the 3 GT classes that you really need to know about. GTE doesn't exist anymore. Those cars have completely been phased out. And even the way to look at that was that GTEs were basically big GT3 cars, with a little bit more sort of endurance aspect to them. And that was the way to look at it. So now I think the way I explain it, GT3 is your top class, GT4 is your second class, and then if you want to pretend that GT2 is still important, then you're more than welcome to do that.
They're not really that important. I just wish...
No, GT2 for amateur drivers, by the way. I was Googling it now, because I've probably only watched 1 or 2 GT2 races. But yeah, completely for amateur drivers.
I am here, I'm just sneezing.
So yeah, amateur is the GT2 class.
You had to change your ear cups yet on your headset?
No.
I've just changed mine for the first time in 5 years. Second time in 5 years. I bought them in 2018, had the originals for a year, they got destroyed. Bought a new pair in 2019. In fact, 5 years ago today I got them, I remember, because I reordered the same ones. Put them on Sunday, wore them for the race, and they're just squeaking now because they're new. So I'm it's like trying to mould them because they're moulded ones.
Now, I know this is an almighty tangent because they're not even racing here. I never will race here. But I'm now reading into the history of the GT2 class because I'm completely wrong on it.
Oh, really?
In the sense that I'm not wrong, but in terms of the history of it, I'm wrong. I thought that the whole point of GT2 was that it was the old class, and then modern GT3 sort of took over and it molded into that. Hence why the confusing name, because you had GT2 being the main class, and then GT3 sort of overtook it and pegged it back a little bit. That's not the case at all. The modern GT2 category was created in 2018.
Now, is that with modern or classical cars? In the GT2s?
Modern.
Modern?
It's a completely new category.
Wow.
And the philosophy of GT2, and I suppose this is why it's called GT2, it's got a more powerful engine than a GT3 car, however less downforce.
So they're about the same on pace then?
A GT2 is slower.
GT2 are slower than GT3, yeah, okay.
Yeah, they slot in between GT4 and GT3 in terms of performance.
And yet they're still called GT2.
And I would suspect they're called GT2 to reflect purely the power from the engine, which is a little bit more.
That's so confusing. It's just, this is what I mean, they need to regulate it a bit more better and put them up into what they have.
In their defense, you couldn't really call them GT3.5s.
Yes, that's true.
So,
and again, the engine doesn't have the same factor on it. What happened to the GT1s, the actual GT category then?
They got phased out, didn't they?
They didn't they? Because it used to be like the top tier. It was like FIA GT1 races, and that was always the big one. Ben Edwards did the commentary on it, for goodness sake. So that's just sort of been phased out quietly.
It sort of got replaced with. I mean, I would say arguably, modern hypercar is the spiritual successor to GT1. That would be my my argument on it. In the sense that you've got these manufacturers.
Yeah, GT1 became
GT1.
LMP1, which became hypercar.
This shows my relative poor knowledge on the way the classes have happened over the last 20 years or so. GT1, that was the flying Mercedes, wasn't it? That was a GT1 car.
Yes.
Or was that?
Now.
Yes, so that's the class.
Was that 30 years ago? Today, that flying Mercedes.
Would have been effectively 30 years ago today, yeah.
Yeah.
I would
swear I saw a tweet on it.
More natural, it is okay. I have a little bit too much understeer.
Valentino Rossi there, saying he's got a little bit of understeer. A concept that he's getting used to after riding motorcycles for a while. Still have understeer on a motorcycle, obviously, but it's different. If you have understeer or oversteer on a motorcycle, it usually results in you flying off your bike and head first towards the ground.
All motorbikes do is understeer.
Yeah. I love it, though, the MotoGP at the moment. We're having a golden age of that as well. Everyone's moaning about, oh, Ducati are winning everything, Ducati this, Ducati that. What about KTM and, Aprilia? They're getting right up there. We're shaping up. Yes, Ducati are quick, but in 2025, we're going to have Marc Marquez and Pecco Bagnaia on a factory Ducati. You've got Brad Binder and Pedro Acosta on a factory KTM. And then you've got Maverick Vinales and Jorge Martin on an Aprilia factory bike. We're in for an almighty year. And then if Yamaha pull the finger out, Quadraro's going to be back. So, yeah, I'm really looking forward to 2025. And 24 still being excellent.
I used to watch MotoGP with a bit of a passing interest back when Casey Stoner was racing, when I was a kid. Because my dad used to watch a lot of it. It was similar to how I sort of got into F1.
Yeah.
Actually, I always used to follow F1. But in terms of getting into MotoGP now, I know I would enjoy it. But the amount of time I would have to put in to get to the level of knowledge I have about F1, I'm not trying to sound like I'm some F1 expert, but in terms of to be able to follow it, knowing what's going on,
yeah. Oh,
it would take so long.
You're saying about Hasberg, he has come to a halt, the 35 Alpine, and that is on the Mulsanne Straight, just out of Tech Rouge, down the beginning of it, down towards Daytona, and that is going to be either slow zone or red flag at this time of night to recover that car. But fingers crossed they can fire it back up remotely and get on the battery power and get going.
It's on the right-hand side of the Mulsanne, so I wouldn't suspect, as you ride on board on the television pictures, you'll hear that in your ear with the Alpine. Goes through Tech Rouge, and he's got a C8N error. I don't know what that means, but that's what the dashboard is telling us. So Ferdy Habsburg has to move over to the right-hand side of the road. They will control or delete it, I would imagine. Where that car is, though, should be able to get away without a red flag here, but I do wonder if they would just red flag the session, just stop cars going in that part of the track anyway.
Computer automated neutral is the only thing I can think of there, because he lost gearbox as well. So if you
yes, possibly.
Yeah, because if you lose the gearbox in these hypercars, they automatically default to neutral. So that's the only thing I can think of is a computer automated neutral. Hello, that's Valentino Rossi going for a bit of a drift, coming through in the BMW. And that's at Ford Chicane. He's very familiar, intimately, with this first section of the track as Valentino Rossi. Same track as we have here for the French Grand Prix Le Mans for MotoGP. He's done a couple of moves here as well. He's had an accident here, actually, a massive one back in 2017.
To be honest, that's not. I think that looks bigger than it is.
MotoGP were here a few weeks ago as well. That was a cracking race.
What? Number 6.
Ferrari. That's a Ferrari stopped at down to La Chapelle. Can't see where that is. It could be it's turn 1. Marshall point 2 and 8. Go on, Tom.
So Alpine, they do this every single year, and they have been for a very long time, making their onboard completely available on YouTube. So I'm keeping an eye on that 35s on board at the moment.
Oh, good idea.
And they have got marshals around there, sort of helping Ferdi Habsburg out. He's trying to get the car control up. At least he has, so he's moving again. Ferdi Habsburg's moving again. Statement can't be said about the Ferrari, which is stopped. I can't see what that is. That looks into, I want to say, the corner just before Tete Rouge, which is turn 6, and he's moving again. Oh no, it's turn 1.
Yeah, it's
okay.
First corner.
So there you go, straight out of the pit lane. So both of our stranded cars are moving again. Habsburg, one of them, the other one being the Ferrari.
We are going to try, by the way, because they're on YouTube, they are free to use as every now and then. They can't, you've got to give credit and all that lot, all that jazz. But if we have on boards, we can shuffle around them during the 24-hour race. So that's going to be good. I've double-checked with a lot of people. The amount of prep work I have done for Le Mans is unbelievable. But I didn't know that the camera's available now. I got told that they would become available for race day only. So I'll get those sorted for tomorrow.
Yeah, they stream every session, Alpine. It's very useful. The only downside is, of course, it's a little bit behind.
Yeah.
But we can accept that.
X2, speed 2. On board with that 35 now. So, yeah. I'm going to look forward to that.
He's taking it leisurely, but they'll crack this car open, try and figure out what's wrong with the gearbox, and if anything wrong with the gearbox. It seems to be shifting through the gears all right now. I would be surprised if he doesn't come into the pits though.
Yeah, down 6-5 into Indianapolis, looked fine. Yeah. So I believe the cars I know about are Alpines. Toyota are also putting one out. There'll be one stream, I think, for Toyota, and they'll flop between the 7 and 8 throughout the race. I believe Jolter are doing one, but we haven't had a confirmation on that. Peugeot are not, as far as I know. LMP2 are doing a couple. Cool Racing's got one, I know that. And I think Inter Europol's got one as well. But there are a ton of GT3 cars. Iron Dames, I think, has got one. I'm trying to look through. I think that we just had that BMW from Rossi. I think he's got one as well on his fan page, so we'll try and get hold of
that. Not to unfairly advertise other people's things on your stream, Josh, but I shouted him out last year, and I'll shout him out again this year because he's been fantastic, and I get the majority of my my sports car news from this account. Ewan Wayne on Twitter does his live tweets, and he's actually been very, very helpful. The majority of stuff that I sort of come up with, for example, like, Toyota have been disqualified from qualifying. That I get it from his account. Like, he's fantastic. But anyway, so Ewan Wayne on Twitter.
Ewan Wayne.
He's got a tweet here from 8 minutes ago. The 51 and the 83 have had a penalty.
Oh.
10 seconds. So these are the two Ferraris. 10 seconds added to their first pit stop for not correctly stopping in their dedicated stopping area during qualifying.
So that's during the race.
This is what annoys me, That should be a reprimand, in my opinion.
Yeah, nothing to affect the race if you've just gone a little bit forward. The pit lane here at Le Mans can hold 62 cars. It's got enough. It's got everything to do it in. But here's another funny fact for you: the actual limit of the pit lane is 40 cars in terms of width of the actual pit lane stop. So the pit building here at Le Mans has been shrunk massively, to which you can only literally put car end to end now to get the 60 in. So it's like parking buses in the bus lane. They are all stacked up against each other. If we have multiple cautions in the race and we have WEC and GT3 cars coming into the pit lane, we are going to have an almighty traffic jam. They're going to have to stagger come Saturday because there is no room in that pit lane anymore because we've bumped it up to 62.
Yeah, the good thing, though, of course, is that a lot of teams have got two that they can buddy with each other. So I would suspect Ferrari have their own designated pit box.
They do.
Toyota will have their own designated pit box and stuff. Obviously, Ferrari have the first pit box, don't they? As is tradition.
Yes. However, I do think that the garage has actually been shifted because somebody else got pushed down there earlier on. When they stored in the pit lane. So I think the Cadillacs or one of the independents have it, because I think I saw the Estola Francini team getting that first pit box. But Ferrari they've got the first pit lane garages, but I think you're right, the first pit box are Ferrari. I've yet to have a look at that, because I just looked at it earlier in practice.
I'll tell you my most depressing realisation. Whenever I watch Radio Le Mans watch along, or I see sort of a picture from someone like Graham Goodwin in the commentary box for TV, is the realization that they can't see the track. You think about, I know realistically, if you're a commentator, I mean, when we do go-kart commentary, we look out the window because we don't have live feeds. But when you're doing like an actual racing series, some tracks have got the big towers where you can sort of see what's going on, but you're looking at television pictures. However, it ruins the illusion that they don't even have a window that they can look out of.
I know.
They're facing away from the window, and I know Rywager and Le Mans do, but I just think turn it round. Just let them see out the window. They do that in Formula 1.
I know, it bugs me as well. And I mean, the window for me is behind me, and I did think about moving all around a couple of years ago, but the window then got boarded up to put soundproofing on because people complained that they could still hear me. So it feels like it's 10:25. It's still probably light outside, but I'm locked in the garage and I feel like I've been in a dungeon all day. There's no light in here, and it's a weird thing that we don't have. It's weird because if we went to Le Mans and did the commentary, it would be no different than where we are right now, looking at the television monitor, and that to me is depressing because you go all that way, and you're basically told just to sit in a porter cabin. It's ridiculous. We used to have the best commentary boxes. Go on.
The only upside is that you can go, and this is invaluable actually. You can go out of the commentary box and you can speak to the teams. And I would suspect most of the commentators. I mean, I would suspect Anthony Davidson gets Stuart's one, especially. But have the ability to just wander down into the pit lane, have a little walk up and down, and things like that.
Yeah.
Although the WEC are very, very particular about their pit lane rules, aren't they? Because how busy the pit lane is, you have to wear fireproofing, I believe.
Right, here's the thing. Right, you ready? When I went there in 2018 at Silverstone, I got grid access and all that lot, because WEC is incredibly open in terms of the paddock, but I had the media pass anyway, so I was on the grid and all that lot, walking around. Busy as anything. But even with the media pass, you cannot get into the actual pit lane unless you wear the fire suit and a crash helmet and fireproof gloves. And I wasn't going to put all that on. It was the middle of summer. So I just stood at the back of the pit lane and watched it all.
It's pathetic. It should be. Chuck a high vis on.
Yeah, in you go.
It's between you and Jesus.
Yeah. I mean, I'd rather... to be fair, I'm not even kidding here. If I'm going to pop my clogs, I'd rather do it on a racetrack. I mean, it's on the back of every ticket. Yeah. Motorsport is dangerous. I'd take my chances, thank you very much. I want to see this pit stop, thank you. But
yeah, if there's a significant fire, the fans are more at risk, rather than the area that's got the most fire extinguishers.
Yeah. I mean, bless her. She's a fantastic presenter. But Alexa Rendell, who's the world endurance... You might know her on Formula E. She's done some pit road important jobs.
Yeah, she is. Yeah, she does all the WEC media stuff, like the live Instagram stuff.
I mean, every time she wants to go to the pit lane, she has to put on this fire suit and helmet and her headphones, and she looks daft because the fire suit is like very, very... It's a small, but it looks large on her because it's just not fitted. So I feel it makes everyone look daft. Why?
And I mean... Look, Ted Kravitz does not look daft when he is walking around like he owns the Formula 1 pit lane. And that's not a slight on Ted Kravitz. If I was Ted Kravitz, I would walk around the Formula 1 pit lane like I own the Formula 1 pit lane.
Yes.
He looks cool at times. But but yeah, you don't look cool if you've got your bloody fire suit on.
Yeah.
Oh, it's crazy.
Also, fire suits are really, really hot, especially because you've got.
I know.
Yeah, you've got your karting fire suit, but if you actually have to wear a proper race, because you have to wear a proper race one. They are so hot.
B2 car there, good work.
Right. Okay. But yeah, they are
So
so hot. Go on.
My karting suit isn't. I believe it's fireproof to a point, but I think it's sort of. It would give you about 10 seconds of protection if push came to shove. I wouldn't feel particularly safe in my karting suit anyway if I was in a fiery situation. And it's not a proper racing suit, obviously. So I imagine an actual racing suit would be so hot to wear.
They are, and of course, also I forgot about this. I believe Alexa and everybody else has to wear the fireproof underclothing as well. So that's fireproof underwear, fireproof leggings and top and all that lot. So, yeah.
The only thing that I would say is sensible is that all media and all photographers, so all media has to go through a sit-down briefing.
Yes.
Based on how to behave around hybrid cars, how to behave around normal race cars, hybrid cars especially, because if you touch a hybrid, you can die.
Yeah, you can't touch.
So that would be my thing. You have a sit-down briefing. You say, look, don't be almost swore. Don't be idiots. Don't be idiots. Don't touch the cars. All of this. Chuck a high-vis on so you don't die.
You're fine.
And you'll be all right.
I mean, all we got in the touring cars was, here you are. That's it. You've got hybrid, you've got fuel, you've got tyres, everything. Just, here you are. There's your pass. Off you go. Done. Because they email you it all. And nobody ever reads it. I don't know one person who's read it. Not one.
Fire suit and things is absolutely silly. Absolutely silly, honestly. I don't see the logic. Marshals don't have to wear fire suits, I don't believe.
No, they've got the orange ones, haven't they? Which
are they fireproof?
I don't know.
Too hard, but I think it was just a lower overall grip, not necessarily oversteer.
That was Ben Haley's very delayed team radio there. I don't know. I know the Marshalls are they're like boiler suits, aren't they? They're orange boiler suits. That's all I know. Yeah, I don't think they're fireproof, because obviously you've got to be out there all day.
Yeah, I suppose a Marshall being on fire is unlikely.
Yeah. I thought you were going to say who cares for a second, but go full on.
Yeah, no, that would be me. That would be me. But yeah.
What's whatever
Goodness.
I still don't know why MotoGP. MotoGP's hilarious because they make you wear the bicycle helmets in the pit lane, and they are proper bicycle helmets as well. Everybody looks so funny.
It's not doing anything. This is what confuses me.
They saw an do you know why they introduced it? They had one accident in Formula 1 where the tyre came down the pit lane and hit that cameraman in Nürburgring in 2013. And MotoGP went, we need to fix that. And they gave everybody helmets in case the tyres go flying. I've never known one tyre go flying.
Their tyres don't get changed.
No.
In the same way that Formula 1 tyres do. As far as I'm aware, in MotoGP, or at least this is how it used to be back in the day, if you need to make a pit stop in MotoGP, you jump on the other bike.
That is true. Yellow flags out. Marshall Point 24 and 25. That's Indianapolis area. But you are right. So it's the stupidest rule on the planet that you've got to wear it. And it's just daft. Everybody looks stupid in those helmets. They do. And they're not even... They don't protect you. Where is one? I've got one here. I've got a bicycle helmet somewhere. Where is it? Here we go. There's one. I've got my bicycle helmet here. Is there anything in it before I go start tapping it? No. Oh, there they are. I've been looking for those. My earphone connectors. I'll put it over there. Right, I'll put this here. So this is what they have to wear if you're watching us on YouTube and Twitch. And literally, it's just a normal bicycle helmet. Do you know what? I got told by people in the paddock that they just break them. Oh, hello. That's one of the... There's no tyre on that car.
Yeah, you're correct.
Yeah, rear right's not on it. There's no tyre on it.
That's the AO Racing as well.
Yeah.
That's what are they calling it this year? They're calling it Spike, aren't they? Or something like that. They were running 14th in class. So there you go. AO Racing. I believe so. Okay, I believe so. I'm judging by the thing on the back of the car.
It is AO Racing, yeah, by TF. So where have they gone off?
I can't see where that is. That looks...
Indy.
It does look like Indianapolis. Yes, I'd agree with that.
Slow zone.
And it is Indianapolis, and we've got a slow zone. The good news is that car is directly... So it's on driver's left as you hit the apex of Indy. From what I can see, again, it's a black and white security camera, so it's quite tricky. The marshals, in theory, can push this directly back into that sort of lane.
They've got that.
AO have tweeted, actually. So at the moment is PJ Hyatt's in that car. He said, I lost one of my tyres. You have a puncture? No, one of my wheels is off the car.
Oh, God. Just flown off.
No idea what's happened there, but that's what they are. That's what they're saying.
Now, let's have a look. Did he just leave the pit lane a few moments ago? No. Hang on a minute. There's that yellow flag. March 25. That was at 2:32. So, did he leave the pit lane anywhere before that? No. Yes. He left the pit lane. Is it the 14 that's gone off?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. He left the pit lane at 22:29:03. So yeah. Under investigation for unsafe release now as well by the stewards. So he left the pit lane and the tyre wasn't connected. Done well to actually get down to the Mulsanne straight, actually.
I was going to say, he's got a fair whack, hasn't he? That's halfway around the track.
That to me says it's a failure, not a it's come loose. That's a failure of the wheel, now, in my experience.
Well,
he spun
I'm 50-50 on that. I'm 50-50 on that because
Has he hit
remember
the
on the
barrier?
up, you're warming up the tyres a little bit.
Hmm.
I think a failure, you'd be putting more pressure into the tyres than maybe they are.
There's a couple of lines on the track because we were on board with Lawrence Van Horth there on the Porsche number 6 as well. I wonder if he's hit the barrier, but there's no damage to the front, so we'll keep a lookout. We should get a slow zone in soon because the marshals have been able to pull that back from behind the pit lane as Erwin Bastard has left the pit lane. Just going to get that as much as I can this weekend as soon as I see his name on the driver checker because it's not often you can swear on here, actually be legal. Which is incredibly funny. Nolan Siegel, of course, in second at the moment in the 22 LMP2 category. If you've been watching our IndyCar coverage, of course, the man who, the 18-year-old, I should say, who didn't qualify for the Indy 500, just had a huge accident on his final run, but did step in for Agustin Canapino as well at the last time out at Road America and did a very, very good job. So Nolan Siegel now done one race in IndyCar.
So the slow zone is still there.
Slow zone is ending.
22 minutes. Oh, there we go. It's 22 minutes on the clock.
What were we talking about before that yellow? Oh, as they go to a break. Fire suits. Yeah, the helmets. Yes. The helmets, I've known people sit on them and break them because they're not actual anything. They're not carbon fiber, they're nothing. They're just bicycle helmets. So they're not.
Yeah, they help if you fall off a bike. I think it's silly.
Safety gone mad.
There's a point in motorsport, as you know. So I've been. This is slightly unrelated. I've been watching on Discovery Plus all day, because I decided I'm paying for Discovery Plus now. I don't care. I'm paying for it.
Right.
Because I get BT Sport on it as well.
Well,
so I haven't been seeing a lot of the Eurosport adverts, but this Rolex advert that's on the screen now is a staple of Le Mans, and it's nice to see that it hasn't changed.
Well, we've got the main pictures. Obviously, are going to be the Eurosport pictures, but there will be a secondary monitor up in the com box that we can keep an eye on everything on. But the Wi-Fi is being such a erring bastard, to use that name. You just can't get it through.
Do we switch away from what's it called? World Feed at any point this year? So
I don't know.
This is World Feed, isn't it?
Yes, this
For
is
the
World
first,
Feed.
So practice is World Feed, and then last year we swapped to Eurosport.
Yes, for the race itself. I think we are swapping to the race for the race because I know Alex Jake's doing it all. But whether the night shift is going to be the World Feed team, I'm not sure. It'd be nice actually because last year they all got in trouble a little bit. There's biscuits. I've just found biscuits wrapped in a thing on my chair in the commentary box. What the hell are they doing there? Last year they got in trouble because everybody, was like, let's have some ice. They were telling all the kids, like, the best thing to stay up for that race, it's ice cream and sugar and cake and all that lot. And before he got his word in, Martin Haven comes in and says, heroin. It was like, great.
The thing is, that clip was funny when I first saw it because it got nominated into the finals of, I don't know if you're familiar with Accidental Partridge.
Yes, on Private Eye.
Yeah, it got to the finals of Accidental Partridge on Twitter. They do a competition every year for the best accidental partridge of the year, and that got to like one of the finals. However, now I see it every time I open up Instagram Reels for at least a week. It was just Martin Haven talking about heroin, and I think Martin Haven's a fantastic broadcaster, but I got stick to the back teeth of it, man.
Right,
I must have seen that clip 50 times.
I know what you mean. It goes annoying, doesn't it? I have no idea what he was doing here, but as I've been in the paddock, as I said, in 2021 for touring cars, but as my first day as a brand new, half a season long member in the touring car paddock at that launch day, to walk in to the media centre with Steve Ryder, and all of a sudden Martin Haven's here. I was like, "Hi, Martin, nice to see you again." And it's like, oh yeah, it's been 5 years, and I last met you at Donington. I was like, thinking to myself, what the hell's he doing here? Martin's done nothing in the touring cars for decades. But I suppose if you're Martin Haven, you can just walk around doing anything you like.
Yeah, you think so. He's reached the peak of commentating on every series except for Formula 1.
Which is really annoying, because he's done GP2 as well. But he's never done Formula 1.
Do actually for Eurosport back in the day.
What, F1? He did GP2.
Yeah.
But did he do F1?
Okay.
Well, Eurosport did it in 1990. They stopped in 1995, didn't they? No, 96 they stopped, and they had Ben Edwards for a couple of years.
Okay.
I don't know. If I see him, I'm going to ask him if he's done it. I presume he's done something. Yellow flag out again at Indianapolis, just to let you all know. And I think we're coming up now near there with James Collado. Yeah, we are. Okay. Right, why have we got a yellow out? Is this Porsche Curves? Oh, it's Van Hoff. Oh, and that's in the 15 BMW. And is he side? He's gone straight up the escape road, hasn't he? Yeah, David Addison agreeing with me. David Addison,
local boy, by the way, Martin Haven. I've just noticed.
Oh, from you?
He's from Royal Leamington Spa, which isn't. I mean, it's not the most local place, but it's local enough.
He just locked up there. Yeah, why is it? Oh, he's hit the barrier as well. The BMW.
Oh, that's a nasty crash.
He's going to be back slow now as well. He's damaged that front end, and he had nowhere to go really, did he? He couldn't brake, couldn't turn in, and he had to hit the wall. So that's the trouble you have down at Indianapolis, is that there's not a lot of escape room. We saw that late last year actually. In the final hour, we had an accident there that brought out the safety car because the exit curb, people ran over the gravel. I can't remember who it was. It was one of the. I can't remember who it was now. I think it was a Peugeot that hit the wall. Good. I think it was Peugeot.
Good. But the rest of the car feels good, fine.
Okay, copy. Box for nose change. Box for nose change.
Right, so nose is broken, but the car's fine. That's great news for him. But yeah, Yeah, I was going to say David Addison, actually. Oh, that's going to need a red flag to replace that. Because you can't have a broken tyre barrier. That's the reason we had a brief red flag in practice 1 this morning, actually. Coming into it. In fact, practice 1 all the sessions have ended under a red flag today. I've just remembered that. We haven't actually had a checkered end. Oh, no, we did it in practice 1. I stand corrected. Oh, that one.
As far as I know, Martin Haven hasn't done Formula 1, by the way.
Interesting. We have to invite him on.
That accident, by the way, for the BMW is bizarre. I need to see another replay of it. So he's gone. Whereabouts of the track was it? I didn't look over to my monitor quickly enough to see it. Indianapolis, yeah, I thought so. He's locked up, and then the car's sort of jinked right on him, and he's tried to... He's just had almost no steering into the barrier.
If you got Discovery Plus open, you might see it in a second.
Yes, well, I don't, unfortunately. My internet's been bizarre.
I know,
I was
it's the
going
weather.
through the cricket earlier, and I opened up my computer, and I'd put Call of Duty to install overnight.
That's what you've done. You've killed it.
And when I went to bed, it was saying, like, I was only going at 5 megabits per second. So I went to bed and I thought, okay, that is awful. But I imagined, like, there's some maintenance going on in my area or something. By the time I wake up in the morning, it'll be done because it'll have kicked back into gear.
And in the morning?
And I'm there. And bear in mind, I slept until about 1 p.m. today.
Yes. Well, you had a headache.
Because I was watching the World Cup games last night. Well, once I got over the headache, I was watching the World Cup games last night. And I looked down, it says 18 hours to go on Call of Duty, 20 gigabytes downloaded. I thought, how?
Gigabyte an hour?
And then I thought, well, there is no way that I'm going to be able to stream the cricket, keep a consistent picture, allow our co-commentator to watch it as well. So I thought, I'm just not going to bother. And it was a good game, unfortunately, so we missed out on a good one.
Cricket's been good. Oh, I'm working on the tennis thing, by the way. My plan is the first Wimbledon game, I'll get it all finalised, and then I'll send it over to you as well. And then you just got to put your camera on it.
Fantastic. I'll have a look as well, see if I can find my old ones, because we got a really nice graphics package for the tennis.
You did? I remember.
A couple of years ago.
Because my plan is to have...
The only downside to score yourself, but other than that, it was really nice.
I fixed that for you using Wimbledon's live timing site. So on one side you'll have, well, on either side you'll have each player's stats and facts that everyone can read. Your camera will be in the centre with a lovely Wimbledon centre court background, and then at the bottom you'll have the ticker for the results that auto update.
Lovely.
So yeah.
The only good thing about mine, and obviously the cricket as well, is a little app that I made. I say I made. The first rendition of it was made by me actually, and then I've sort of iterated it over the years to just fit the needs of each specific graphics package, just to make it a little bit better. And then I was just before this World Cup, and the same thing happened for Ashes last year. I was like, right, I need this, but I can't be bothered to code it myself.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, I'll ask ChatGPT to do it, and it works flawlessly.
Really?
It's crazy. Now, I will say one thing. The reason it works flawlessly is because I know how to code it myself, so I knew what I was asking ChatGPT to do.
Yeah.
So it's only a time save. It's like I could be specific enough to ask it what it needed to do. And as I said, I know program it myself. It was just a time save. So as I said, I could be that level of specific. But it took me probably about 20 minutes compared to when I was doing the tennis. It took me about an hour to make that same app.
Blimey.
So huge time save. I'm forever grateful to ChatGPT.
I had to go out by my OBS files if I ever send them out to people because they're such a mess. But the thing is, they're a mess to other people, but I know they're in that position because it's how they work.
Engine braking everywhere to get a feel for tomorrow. So Bravo 5-3 at your convenience. Bravo 5-3.
So B53 on the radio message. But yeah, because like everything's in a mess, but it's because I know how they work. But I must admit, I've come back to this WEC OBS for the first time in a year because I set a new one up for when we did IMSA. And I'm looking at it going, I can't understand a foggy on what's going on here.
I get that. I went back. So obviously for this World Cup, my first thought was, I'll just use the Ashes from last year. Now the way the Ashes work was slightly different to a T20 because I decided to put that little bit more information on the screen.
Yeah.
In the sense that we had each batsman, because I knew if we're doing a 2-hour broadcast, realistically, there's a chance that there's not going to be a wicket in that 2 hours kind of thing.
Yeah.
So you don't want to just see this. You want to actually have the viewers give the information so you're not saying it. Whereas in the T20s, the score is okay. They just need the score. It's not that important.
Yeah, we can do the rest of it.
I was looking at it and I was like, what have I done here? Like, how? And then one of my problems was, back last World Cup, one of the things we had, and this goes for the South Africa Women's World Cup as well, we had pictures of all the stadiums in the background. And I did that for all of the Ashes as well. And then it got to the point, I was like, there is no way of me to get a picture up for some of these American stadiums because they've only existed for 3 weeks. And there's no pictures I could use that I have the rights to use.
It's like all the pictures we use, we've got the game in that lot and thumbnails and stuff like that. So it gets incredibly hard.
New York's not in the cricket game because it's
it's new,
brand new.
I must admit, I've started to look at my black and white images, and I'm starting to think I can use Google Earth now and the orbit, and I'm starting to think just use the spinny thing for them all, so that it gives the background a bit of dynamic.
The only thing that you do need there is you always need to put the copyright Google Earth in the corner.
Yeah, that's true. Although sometimes not even that appears. I've noticed that actually. When I've done the Google Earth Studio, sometimes it doesn't appear. It flashes for a second, it just disappears. The whole thing. Really strange. Especially on the point-to-points. They disappear. Have you got that yet? You can just sign up for it if you've got a YouTube channel.
No, I didn't know that existed.
Yeah, Google Earth Studio. It's great. It's how we do all our fancy shots. In fact, I'll show the viewers it right now. By pressing this. The orbit. I made that orbit on Google Earth Studio.
Let me have a look at the YouTube feed. Oh wow.
So yeah, you just go to the location. The buildings are in Google Earth are 3D printed, and you just set it to orbit, and you can go anywhere on the circuit.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
That would look cool in the background.
Yeah, that's how we open and close the show now, and then so that's how it is. So a nice orbit of the paddock pit lane area. It worked well.
Wouldn't solve my New York cricket ground problem though.
That's
because
true. Oh, it's frozen now.
Won't be on. That's like it's so nil.
There we go.
It's so it won't be on Google Earth, and it will never be on Google Earth because that ground is being demolished as we speak because it just finished its last game.
Yeah, it's a pop-up one, isn't it? I'll tell you one thing that does actually give me the Formula E tracks that we go to. Sometimes you fly from one location to another and it just literally looks like a warehouse. And you're supposed to go, yeah, we're here, by the way.
Probably because it is.
Yeah. I'm not looking forward to when we get to the XL Centre in London because that's going to be a bit... Tell me what the weirdest one was. Tokyo. Tokyo was the weirdest one because literally it just looked like we were zooming down to a fishing dock. It was bizarre. I may as well just gone, here's Grimsby. Here we are, racing here. To be honest with you, the more and more I'm looking at Grimsby Dockland, the more and more I'm thinking to myself, we could have a Formula E race. Honest to God. And it would probably be quite good.
I will say, I haven't really kept up with Formula E the last 2 years. I used to watch it religiously in that I followed every single race, even like the ones at like 1 in the morning. I don't watch anymore.
Well, it's not as great as it is at the moment. It's sort of pack racing with having to save battery energy because...
That's when I lost interest, actually, I think, when that started. I don't seem to remember Gen 2 days that happened as much.
It didn't. Gen 2 was perfect. We had a couple of races where, when the FIA started interfering with the distance of the races mid-race, like with added time, added laps, that sort of thing, and then we had this really weird case where for Valencia, do you remember Valencia? Where everyone ran out of energy?
Yes.
That was because the FIA took energy away from the usable energy away from the cars and extended the race by distance. So they sort of shot themselves in the foot by they took 20% of kilo of energy away from them, and they added 2 laps. So nobody had enough battery power to get through. And they went, maybe we shouldn't do that anymore. And now they brought a tack charge in to try and fix it. But a tack charge that was supposed to come in last year hasn't come in, which meant that Gen 3 has killed anything with Formula E. Because you don't get great racing.
It's from Hyperball from Brendan. Might want to consider tyre 2. Tyre 2.
That's Sebastian Buemi considering tyre 2. Yeah, so you don't get great racing, you don't get flat-out racing, and you don't get any overtakes that are genuine. So Gen 3 Evo is going to introduce that and say, oh, this is the Evo. No, Evo is changing aerodynamics. Attack charge should have been had the first run.
One of the joys of Formula E used to be that you still had that element of energy management. So, but it wasn't to the point where it stopped the racing.
Yeah.
And it was, from what I could tell anyway, it seemed like you'd get these fantastic finishes once every sort of 3 races or so, where it's like, oh, one driver really slow, but the other driver is able to attack because he's managed his energy correctly.
Yeah.
Whereas last time I watched a Formula E race was Portland last year, and it was just they were just in a pack. They were just following each other, and the problem is as well.
Yeah, that's what
I was one who was calling. I was calling for Formula E on normal circuits for so long, and then the second you watch them, you go,
no,
these cars are slow.
Yeah,
these cars are so slow.
They don't work on these. And to be fair, Portland is when all this mess started with the saving energy, and it's been consistent throughout this entire season. This Mexico, Diria, Sao Paulo, everywhere, it's been exactly the same thing. Mazzano was the worst for it, actually.
Did they go to Monaco this year?
Yeah. Monaco was actually all right as well, from what I remember. I wasn't leading that one, though, because I was doing something else. Can't remember where I was. Jess and Ed led that one. I came in as pit reporter halfway through. I think I was doing MotoGP or something like that. One of the two. Was it Qatar? Was that in Qatar? Could have been in Qatar. Or Spain. I think it was. It was Spanish Grand Prix sprint race. I mean, last time you were in the commentary box, Tom, for Formula E, my commentary box nearly caught on fire.
Oh dear. That's one of the most bizarre things I've ever heard. The heater. No, that wasn't even the last time. The last time was that absolute nightmare with me, you, and Ed, because I was the one streaming it.
Oh, South Africa.
South Africa.
Yeah, that was a bonkers
that stream
weekend.
gives me nightmares. I forget. Poor old Ed. It was so funny. Couldn't figure out. Like when we were trying to go to, we were trying to put radio messages and stuff on. He couldn't figure out that my radio messages were different to the radio message on your thing.
Yeah.
So when I was saying, please be quiet, because I'm putting a radio message on, he just, poor Ed, was just sat there talking over it. Please.
He was driven mad. And that's because we were stuck. Because in those days, last year even, I had to use Megan's laptop to get Ed in the commentary box because Megan's laptop couldn't do the stream well. So to get everything working, that was hilarious. That was one of the weirdest. Do you remember how my commentary setup had to be? It was 2 hat stands with a little towel over the top of it, and I was huddled inside it and couldn't move. Most painful commentary of my life. I literally.
It was awful. I have nightmares still.
Yeah, I do. I do not look at that race back. That was South Africa. And then the next day, we had cricket commentary at the same, in the same town. Do you remember?
Which, weirdly, was a really entertaining game.
Yeah. That was actually better than the race.
It was one of the smoothest we've done.
That was great. And you were something about ball fondness.
I cannot wait, by the way, for everyone watching here on JB Motorsports. The World Cup is getting in a couple of, probably about 5 days into its next stage, the Super 8 stage. And we have got, not all of the games, but we've got a lot of cricket in the next 2 weeks. And me and you are on pretty much all of it. It's going to be class.
Have you got that multi-stream I sent you? Do you remember where you can do... Yeah.
Not to hand, but I do remember you sending it me.
Yeah.
I think I remember you sending it me, and I was in the middle of something, and I sort of put it to one side and said, that's cool, and then completely forgot about it.
Yeah, it's the OBS plugin, and that's how we can do Twitch and YouTube. In fact, right now I could do Twitch, JB1, USRN, JB2. I could do us twice on JB1 and Megan's Key. I can do this on Facebook, and I can even do this on the ERC commentary channel as well. I've got all the stream keys.
I will have a look at that, because if we could multi-stream JB and...
Yeah, that's what I was just thinking.
The only thing that the plugin I need is a way to get exactly what I've got going into OBS onto Mixler. That would save me so much hassle.
I know. Hang on, I know. I can solve that for you.
Okay.
Right. You know, you can... Right, okay, here you go. Yellow flag's out. If you select your audio on your OBS and select it to monitor and output...
Okay, yes. So
Yeah.
this is what I do, right? However, then we get another another problem,
The TV pictures?
which is that one of the things I have for cricket, and this is, to be fair, I could totally get over this. It's not. I am being a little bit pathetic. But one of the problems I have.
Oh, big
is that-
accident! The 12's
oh, that's
in the
huge.
wall.
Okay, we'll talk about this.
Now that is going to be a red flag instantly. It's Callum Ilott, and it is red flag. Callum Ilott in the Hertz Team Jolter squad, running 4th in class in hypercar, has hit the barrier big time, coming into Tete Rouge, and has broken off the front right suspension of the car. No damage to anything else on the car, just that. But that is a big one, Tom, and the red flag's out. And that ends the session again.
Yeah, that'll end the session. Timer continues. We've only got 10 seconds left anyway, so we won't be taking the checkered flag. And it's a shame, because that's Callum Ilott. He's having such a good day. He got into hyperpole, albeit by the skin of his teeth, but he was on a lap to go for pole position, wasn't he, before that yellow flag came out? So regardless, he's impressed in the Indy 500 big time. 12th or something like that, he finished in that race. And then into Le Mans, really think that he's got a chance of at least winning that in subclass, so to speak, as a team. This is a step back, though, I feel.
The checkered is also out, by the way, so they have ended it. They're not going to extend it by letting everyone do another lap. So everyone back to the pit lane is the command. And even though Callum Ilott's not getting out of the car, that is because he's told to stay in the car until Eduardo Freitas, the race director, clears him to be allowed to leave. Because 62 cars running around the track, the last thing you need is to be run over by one, especially in the darkness.
It's the most sensible way to do it.
Yeah.
Trust me, you do not want to see the aftermath of that, even at 60 kilometers an hour.
Because the marshals are in bright orange, they are reflected, but the drivers, they're in either black or, darker overalls, and you cannot see. And also, you've got a tinted visor on as well, so you can't see.
And they haven't been marshal trained, which is crucial.
That is big truce. Yeah. I'd really actually like to do a piece on marshals and actually do a marshalling job on one of these weekends. I think that'd be a fantastic feature, to go and be a marshal for a race day and get it all filmed and really get behind and show everyone. Go on.
I'd love to do more features. I'd love to have Martin Brundle's job.
Yeah, that's what I look and go, I'd love to do that. I'd love to do some features.
My problem is having somewhere to post them. I've been thinking recently, like I could write a lot more articles, but I don't really have anywhere to put them.
Grid Network.
So, oh yeah, possibly.
Yeah, shove them on there.
I had a Substack for a little bit, but
I have to say, well, I know we're working on a website to get that sorted. That's being created, and hopefully it'll be up in mid-July. So, problem is though, websites are quite a pain in the behind. So I need
they are.
Yeah.
You'll write an article, and there's literally no. You put it out, and it gets like a view.
Yeah. So
I used to, when I was younger, I used to write for this indie game website. I was literally 11 or 12, I'm pretty sure, and they used to pay me £2 an article. But when I was 11, that was fantastic, and I was totally. I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, that is awful. And they were still making a loss.
You're just conning your way out.
I had a couple of articles that fetched over 1,000 views, and it was like, wow. You were sat there, and I was thinking, that's crazy.
I still find it crazy that anybody tunes in and listens to us rambling. It's day after day. I find it the most amazing
But it's
thing.
the most rewarding thing ever.
It is. And round of applause as Callum gets out of the car and is okay.
I'll tell you what was really rewarding. If you remember back to the last day of Edgbaston last year in the cricket, getting because the cricket isn't popular, and that's okay. That's fine. We do it for fun. However, when we were in Edgbaston, it was this big thing, and we had a couple of people pop into the chat, and it was like just little comments like, "Great commentary, guys. Enjoying listening along." I don't know if you ever feel this, if you get a comment like that.
I do.
But it's like these people. Yes, they might have Sky on at the same time, but like their memory of this is also tied to our commentary.
Yeah,
like they've seen us, and that was cool. It was rewarding as well because it's like, wow, we've put in all this effort, and someone's actually gone out and said, "Good work, guys."
I had last year, and they are now an ex, by the way. I just have to point out. She couldn't watch the Qatar Grand Prix, the sprint race. So I foolishly, now thinking back to it, I always record our commentaries, but I then went back and I recorded the race and edited it together for her and sent it over because she wanted it with our commentary.
No.
Yeah,
gosh.
And then it gets better, don't worry. She wanted it with our commentary because, admittedly, I find it quite nice actually that she didn't want the Sky commentary, she wanted my commentary on it all, but I didn't tell her that Max had won the World Championship. I didn't tell her a thing because she had no mobile phone on. So she finished work and she watched the race. So she watches the race and then Max is World Champion. And I said to her actually when we were ice skating a couple of months later, I said, do you know what always gets me is the fact is that your memory of Max winning the World Championship is going to be of me commentating over it. And I found that crazy. That when you think back to a championship victory, you're going to be thinking of my commentary. And then, she goes and, does what she does. And, and then I get one up that she's Formula 1 sort of been like, she still has to. In fact, she could be watching now because I know she still does. So if you are, hello. I got told earlier on in the year that because she doesn't have Sky, she watches the commentaries here.
Well, I usually try to avoid speaking about commentary to women. Because usually when I do, it doesn't end very well, Josh.
She liked Formula 1, unfortunately as well. Yeah, I get the last laugh. She just has to watch me. Go on.
I had it once, Weatherspoons. Some girls were on our table, and one of my friends goes, "Tom, what's your job?" I was like, "Doesn't matter."
Moving on.
Unemployed.
When I say I'm a journalist, they always go like, "What kind?" And I go, "Motorsport." And they go, "Really?" I was like, "Yeah." I was like,
I've got the get out now because I work at a go-kart track as well. So through commentating for them, I now work there properly. I can just say, "Oh, I'm just a marshal at a go-kart track." So it's like I don't have to explain, and then hopefully they don't find my Instagram.
The problem is I'm quite well known now. So, especially in this town, so it's quite hard to go, because all you've got to do is type in my name on Google and everything I do appears. In fact, if you type in MotoGP Watch Along or IndyCar Watch Along, I pretty much own the monopoly on that area. So, you can find me quite easily by typing my name in. So, I get
recognised at work as the guy who commentates on like some series.
Really?
Occasionally, yeah. So I commentate this karting series called the EKS, and I occasionally have someone come in and go, "Oh, are you the guy who does that?" And I'll go, yes I am. But that's probably happened 3 times in the past. Like, it's not a regular thing.
Do you know what the strangest one I ever had was? Armed Forces Day 2 years ago. I had a break in between the... Oh my God, I've got to go. I'm on Grid Network. I've completely forgotten I'm supposed to be hosting a Grid Network show in about 2 minutes' time, thanks to this red flag.
Oh dear. Okay, let's round out.
Matt White's just reminded me. He says, "Are you coming?" Right. Quickly then to you, Tom. What did you make of that one?
Well, do you know what? I loved it. It's fantastic to just be waffling over some Le Mans night action once again, to the point where we basically just start talking.
Yeah.
It was fantastic, and I look forward to doing it all again Saturday night.
That's a 45 that's spun coming into the pit lane of Nicky Katzberg in the CrowdStrike Racing by APR. So he's spun it coming into the pit lane.
Yes.
And that's under red flags. That's going to be quite funny. Right, I implore you all to go and watch the Grid Network Grid Tonight, which is where I'm going to go without reading the script first. So that's going to be a lot of fun to see how many mistakes I make, and I thought I'd be going to bed early. So completely forgot about the Grid Network. I'm off there now. Thank you, Tom. I'll see you again soon as well, of course, for race day. So that's it. Day 1 of the 2024 Le Mans 24-hour race is complete. Tomorrow you can join us for practice 3, Hyperpole, and the final practice session before we go racing on Saturday for 24 hours. My thanks to Tom. Thanks to Megan earlier in practice and quali. We'll see you again tomorrow. Bye-bye.